The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours. In the great chamber of Nexus Prime, representatives from dozens of civilizations sat in growing despair. The holographic display at the center of the room showed a map of the galaxy with large red zones spreading like a disease. Ambassador Tai-Ho Kim sat quietly in the human section, watching the other delegates argue. The humans were still new to the Galactic Council, having joined only 50 years ago. Most of the other species barely paid attention to them. Humans were considered primitive, weak, and largely harmless. Chancellor Veltar of the Arcturian Federation stood at the speaking platform. His blue skin had turned pale with stress, and his usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. The Arcturians were one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had never shown weakness before. "The Third Fleet is gone," Veltar announced. "All 700 ships. We detected their distress signals for exactly 12 minutes before—" Silence. A murmur of fear ran through the chamber. The Arcturian Third Fleet had been their most advanced force, equipped with weapons that could destroy planets. "How many systems have been lost now?" asked Hive Queen Zafira of the Kepler Collective. Her insect-like features showed no emotion, but her voice carried worry. Veltar looked at his datapad. 17 star systems in the past month. Complete. Consumption. No survivors, no debris, no trace that they ever existed. Ambassador Kim had seen the reports. The Void Swarm was unlike anything the galaxy had faced before. They did not conquer worlds or steal resources. They simply erased everything, leaving empty space where star systems used to be. "What do we know about their technology?" asked Representative Noxthal of the Silicon Mines, a race of living computers. Dr. Yelveth, the Council's chief scientist, activated another hologram. It showed a recording from the last moments of an Arcturian battleship. The enemy vessels looked organic, like living things grown rather than built. They moved through space in ways that should have been impossible. "Our weapons passed through them without effect," Dr. Yelveth explained. "They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Energy shields mean nothing to them. Armor is useless. They simply phase through our defenses and begin feeding." The recording showed the swarm ships attaching themselves to the Arcturian vessel. Where they touched, the ship's hull did not break or melt. It simply disappeared, as if it had never existed. "Feeding on what?" Kim asked quietly. All eyes turned to him. It was rare for the human representative to speak during these sessions. Dr. Yelveth looked uncomfortable. "We believe they consume reality itself, the quantum information that makes matter exist. When they are finished with a system, it does not just die. It becomes nothing. Even the gravity wells disappear." Chancellor Veltar stepped forward again. "We have tried everything. Our most powerful weapons have no effect. We sent entire fleets. They were destroyed in minutes. The Kepler Collective shared their biotechnology. It was absorbed and turned against us." Hive Queen Zephyra's antennae twitched with anger. "My ships were twisted into weapons for the swarm. They used our own living vessels to attack our colonies. The Silicon Mines attempted to fight them with pure logic," added Representative Noxthal. "Our computer viruses could not affect them. They exist outside normal information theory." Kim listened to all of this with growing interest. The galaxy's greatest civilizations had tried every conventional approach. They had used advanced technology, superior numbers, biological weapons, computer warfare. Nothing worked. "What about unconventional approaches?" Kim asked. Chancellor Veltar looked at him with something close to desperation. "Human Kim, we have tried everything our science can conceive. These creatures operate outside the known laws of physics. Perhaps," Kim said slowly, "that is why conventional thinking has failed." The chamber fell silent. Representatives from species thousands of years older than humanity stared at the human diplomat. Some looked annoyed, others looked curious. "What are you suggesting?" asked Hive Queen Zephyra. Kim stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. He was smaller than most of the other delegates, and his simple black suit looked plain next to their elaborate robes and bio-armor. "You have all tried to fight the swarm using your greatest strengths," he said. "The Arcturians used their advanced technology. The Kepler Collective used their bioships. The Silicon Mines used their computational power. But what if the solution requires different thinking?" Chancellor Veltar's eyes flashed with anger. "Are you suggesting that human primitive technology could succeed where our advanced science has failed?" Kim smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "I am suggesting that sometimes the newest perspective sees what experience has missed." "Impossible," declared General Thaxamor of the Rigelian Empire. "Humans have been in space for barely 2 centuries. Your largest ships are smaller than our shuttlecraft." "Size is not everything," Kim replied calmly. Dr. Yelveth pulled up data on human military capabilities. The numbers were not impressive. A few hundred ships, basic energy weapons, simple armor plating. Nothing that should worry an advanced civilization. "Your fleet could not defeat a single Arcturian cruiser," Veltar pointed out. "You are probably right," Kim agreed. "In a conventional battle." The way he said conventional made several delegates look uncomfortable. "What exactly are you proposing?" asked Hive Queen Zephyra. Kim looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. These were beings who controlled the fate of trillions of lives. They commanded technologies that could reshape planets and weapons that could crack stars. And they were all afraid. "I propose that Earth provides assistance to the Galactic Council in dealing with the Void Swarm threat." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates laughed. Others looked offended. A few appeared thoughtful. Chancellor Veltar raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador Kim, I mean no disrespect to your species, but what could humanity possibly contribute to this crisis?" Kim's smile grew wider. "Everything we have learned about fighting the impossible." He walked back to his seat and activated his personal communicator. "This is Ambassador Kim to Earth Command. The Galactic Council formally requests assistance against the Void Swarm. I am authorized to accept on behalf of humanity." "Wait," said Veltar. "We have not formally made such a request." Kim looked at him calmly. "Chancellor, 3 more systems will be consumed in the next week if the current pattern holds. How many more civilizations must fall before pride becomes irrelevant?" The chamber fell silent again. Everyone knew he was right. The swarm was spreading faster than any response could be organized. Chancellor Veltar closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, his expression was that of someone who had accepted the impossible. The Arcturian Federation formally requests assistance from the Terran Defense Force in combating the Void Swarm threat. Kim nodded. "Request accepted. Earth will dispatch appropriate forces to deal with this situation." "How long will it take your fleet to reach the combat zone?" asked General Thaxamor. "Our response is already in motion," Kim replied. "Expect human forces to arrive within 72 hours. "But you just received authorization," protested Dr. Yelveth. "How could you have forces ready so quickly?" Kim's smile became almost mysterious. "Doctor, humanity has been preparing for this conversation for 50 years. He activated his communicator again. "Earth Command, this is Ambassador Kim. Operation Mythbreaker is authorized. Wake the legends." The response came immediately. "Understood, Ambassador. The legends are stirring." As Kim closed the communication channel, he looked around the chamber one more time. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy sat in their seats, desperate and defeated. They had tried everything their vast knowledge could suggest. Now it was time to show them what humanity brought to the galaxy. Not advanced technology or superior numbers or ancient wisdom. Humanity brought something much more dangerous. Humanity brought the refusal to accept that any fight was impossible to win. Thubidi, Galactic Council had asked for help. They were about to learn what that meant when humans answered the call. The message reached Earth in less than 12 hours. Admiral Bo Ra Choi sat in her command chair deep inside Luna Base, reading the coded transmission from Ambassador Kim. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. She had been waiting for this day for 30 years. Protocol 7 is now active, she announced to her staff. Around the command center, officers straightened in their chairs. They all knew what Protocol 7 meant, even if most of them had never seen it used before. Bo-Ra touched a red button on her desk. Across the solar system, hidden facilities began to wake up. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, massive doors opened, for the first time in decades. Inside the hollow center of Ceres, automated systems came online. On the far side of the moon, where no alien satellite could see, construction yards that had been dark for years suddenly blazed with light. Captain Woo Jin Park was sleeping in his quarters aboard the space station Olympus when his communicator buzzed. The message was simple. Report to Hangar Bay Omega immediately. Full gear. Woo Jin had been waiting for this call since he graduated from the academy 15 years ago. Every human officer knew about the legends, but few ever got to see them. He arrived at Hangar Bay Omega to find something impossible. The bay was huge, bigger than any hangar should be on a civilian station. And floating in the center was a ship that made his breath catch in his throat. The Indomitable was 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that he had never seen before. Her hull was black as space itself, and strange lights pulsed along her sides. Beautiful, isn't she? Commander Sujin Lee appeared beside him. Sujin commanded the Ghost Fleet, though most people thought it was just a rumor. She was small and quiet, but her eyes held secrets that could change the galaxy. I thought the legends were just stories, Woo Jin said. Sujin smiled. The best legends always start as stories. Come on, let me show you something even better. She led him to another section of the hangar. Here the ships looked different. They seemed to shimmer and fade, like they were not quite real. Woo Jin blinked hard, but the effect remained. Quantum stealth, Sujin explained. These ships exist in a state between real and not real. Even we are not sure how they work completely. The scientists who built them said it was impossible, so we built them anyway. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Hyun-Woo Nam stood in a conference room with holographic displays showing ship movements across the solar system. He was a big man with scars on his hands from old battles. The people in this room controlled humanity's greatest secret. How long until the main fleet is ready? Asked Dr. Young-Mi Han, the head of Research Division. She was responsible for many of the impossible technologies that the legends carried. 6 hours for full deployment, Hyun-Woo replied. The Titan fleet is already moving. The asteroid bases are launching their ships now. And the special weapons? Loaded and ready, though I still think we should test them more. Dr. Han shook her head. We have been testing them for 20 years. They work. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for what we are about to show them. In the asteroid belt, Captain Yunji Kang watched her sensors as massive shapes moved through space. The rocks around her were not rocks at all, but carefully hidden shipyards. For decades, automated systems had been building ships inside hollowed-out asteroids. Now, those ships were breaking free. The sight was amazing. Asteroids split open like eggs, revealing battleships that dwarfed anything the aliens had ever built. Each ship was unique, built for a specific purpose. Some carried weapons that could crack planets. Others had shields that could stop a star's energy. All of them had been built with one goal, to protect humanity and its allies. Yunji's own ship, humanity's will, was not the biggest or the most powerful, but it was perhaps the most important. Her job was to keep all these different fleets working together. The logistics of moving this many ships without being detected was almost impossible. Almost. All ships report ready, her communications officer announced. Send the signal, Yunji ordered. Tell Admiral Choi that the legends are awake. On the research vessel, Darwin's Edge, Dr. Min-Seo Shin was studying data from the first encounters with the Void Swarm. What she found made her sick with worry. The swarm was not just destroying things, it was erasing them completely, removing them from reality itself. This is not normal destruction, she told her assistant. When they consume a planet, that planet never existed. The gravity well disappears. The history disappears. Even the light from that planet's star stops reaching other systems. She pulled up more data. Look at this. The Kepler system had 12 planets last month. Now it has 8, but all the records say it always had 8. Except for our protected archives, every database in the galaxy has been changed. The implications were terrifying. The swarm was not just winning battles, they were rewriting history, to remove any record of their defeats. How do you fight an enemy that can make your victories never happen? Commander Da-Yun John was briefing her Marines when the alert came in. Her soldiers were not ordinary troops. They were specialists trained for the strangest situations humanity could imagine. Fighting in zero gravity, combat on ships that existed, in multiple dimensions, battles against enemies that could change the laws of physics. Listen up, she told them. Everything you trained for is about to become real. We are going up against something that eats reality itself. Our job is to get inside their ships and find out how they work. And then we destroy them from the inside. Her Marines looked nervous but determined. They had trained for years with weapons and equipment that seemed like magic, guns that fired crystallized time, armor that could phase through solid matter, tools that could cut through the fabric of space itself. Remember, Dawoon continued, we are not just fighting for Earth, we are fighting for the right of existence itself. If we fail, it will be like humanity never existed at all. As the human fleets gathered in the outer system, Admiral Bo-Ra Choi sent one final message to Ambassador Kim at the Galactic Council. The message was simple. Legends deployed. We are coming. She looked out at the greatest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Ships that existed in stories and nightmares. Technologies that broke the rules of science. Soldiers who had trained for wars that should never happen. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. They thought humans were weak, primitive, barely worth. Notice, they were about to learn the truth. Humans did not just join galactic civilization. They had been preparing to save it from the day they first looked up at the stars. The legends were stirring, and the universe would never be the same. The human fleet moved through space like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Fleet Admiral Jin Ho Yu stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Around him, his officers coordinated the movement of over 300 ships without a single communication being detected by alien sensors. How are they doing it? Asked Captain Veltar of the Arcturian monitoring station at Rigel Junction. He watched his screens in confusion as the human ships appeared to move as one mind. They are not using quantum communications. They are not using hyperspace relays. How do they coordinate so perfectly? His communications officer shook his head. Unknown, sir. It is like they can read each other's thoughts. The truth was simpler and more complex than the aliens could imagine. Humans had spent 50 years studying every form of alien communication. Then they had built something better. The neural link system connected every human ship through quantum-entangled particles in their crew's brains. It was not telepathy, but it was close enough. Captain Yunji Kong felt the link as a gentle hum in the back of her mind. She could sense the location and status of every ship in the fleet without looking at a screen. When Admiral Yu wanted the fleet to turn, she felt the intention a split second before the order came. The entire fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship knowing exactly where it needed to be. Alien patrol ahead, reported Commander Da-Eun Jion from her position with the Marine forces. Looks like an Arcturian heavy cruiser. They are scanning us Through the neural link, Admiral Yu's response reached every ship instantly. Let them look. They will see what we want them to see. The human ships activated their camouflage systems. To the Arcturian cruiser, the massive human dreadnoughts appeared to be simple cargo vessels. The quantum stealth ships disappeared entirely. Only a small group of normal-looking human ships remained visible. "Greetings, human vessels," came the transmission from the cruiser. "You are entering a restricted war zone. Please state your purpose." Admiral Yu responded personally. "This is Fleet Admiral Jin-Ho Yu of the Terran Defense Force. We are responding to the Galactic Council's request for assistance against the Void Swarm." There was a long pause. Then laughter came through the communication channel. "Admiral, I mean no disrespect," the Arcturian captain said. "But what can a handful of human cargo ships do against the swarm? Our entire fleet was destroyed in hours." "Thank you for your concern," Admiral Yu replied calmly. "We have brought appropriate resources for the task." On the research vessel, Darwin's Edge, Dr. Min-Seo Shin was making discoveries that chilled her to the bone. The samples of swarm material that had been collected showed impossible properties. The metal was not really metal. It existed in multiple dimensions at once. "Look at this," she told her research team. They gathered around her workstation where a piece of swarm hull floated in a containment field. "When I scan it with normal instruments, it appears solid. But when I use quantum scanners, it shows as empty space. And when I use dimensional detectors, it exists in 7 different realities at the same time." Dr. Taewoo Kim, her assistant, frowned at the readings. "How do you fight something that is not really there?" "That's what every alien fleet has been trying to figure out," Min-Seo replied. "Their weapons pass right through the swarm ships because they are firing at only one dimension. The swarm exists in all dimensions at once." She pulled up more data. "But there is something else. The swarm ships have a quantum signature that matches something in our files. Something from Earth's own experiments with dimensional technology." The implications hit her like a physical blow. "Get me Admiral Yu." "Immediately." Meanwhile, the human fleet was approaching the last line of alien defense at the Kepler Reach. Here, the combined forces of 3 civilizations had gathered for what everyone expected to be the final battle. Alien ships stretched across space, as far as sensors could reach. Admiral So Young Hwang commanded the medical frigate Hippocrates at the rear of the human formation. Her ship looked harmless, designed to help rather than fight. But she carried equipment that could save lives in ways the galaxy had never imagined. Reality stabilizers, quantum surgery tools, and medical nanobots that could repair damage to the fabric of space-time itself. "Multiple alien vessels are hailing us," reported her communications officer. "Put them through," So Young ordered. The main screen filled with the faces of alien commanders. They looked desperate and tired. These were beings who had fought the swarm and barely escaped with their lives. "Human vessels," said Admiral Kextar of the Kepler Collective. "You should not be here. The swarm cannot be fought with conventional weapons. You will only add to the casualty count." Before Admiral Yu could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the alien fleet. The swarm had arrived. They came out of empty space like nightmares becoming real. The swarm ships were massive, organic-looking things that seemed to shift and change as they moved. They did not follow normal physics. Some ships appeared to be inside out. Others existed as dark spaces where light refused to shine. All alien. "Vessels, retreat to minimum safe distance," Admiral Yu broadcast on all frequencies. "Human forces are engaging the enemy." "Admiral, you have maybe 50 ships," protested Admiral Kextar. "We have 3,000, and we barely slowed them down." "Thank you for your concern," Admiral Yu replied. "All human vessels drop camouflage. Show them what we brought." Across space, the human fleet revealed itself. The simple cargo ships transformed into massive dreadnoughts. Ships appeared out of nothing as their stealth systems deactivated. Weapons that had been hidden in asteroid hulls emerged and powered up. The alien fleet fell silent. On 1,000 different bridges, alien. Officers stared at screens that showed impossible readings. The human fleet was not 50 ships. It was over 300. And some of those ships were larger than anything the galaxy had ever built. Captain Jae-hun stood on the bridge of his experimental vessel Prometheus. His ship was the strangest of all the human vessels. It looked normal enough, but it carried technology that existed more in theory than in practice. Reality anchors, quantum stabilizers, dimensional locks. Equipment that could force the universe to follow human rules instead of its own. "Swarm vessels are approaching," reported his tactical officer. "They are trying to phase into our dimension." "Not today," Jae-hun said quietly. "Activate the reality anchors. Lock them into normal space." The Prometheus began to glow with strange energy. Around it, space itself seemed to solidify. The swarm ships, which had been flickering between dimensions, suddenly became solid and real. For the first time in the war, swarm vessels appeared on normal sensors. For the first time, they could be targeted by conventional weapons. Lieutenant Yejin Ko was the first human pilot to fire on a solid swarm ship. Her fighter was small and fast, designed for precision strikes. Her target was a swarm vessel the size of a city. She locked onto what looked like a command center and fired. Her plasma torpedo struck home. The swarm ship shuddered and began to leak strange fluids into space. For the first time in the war, a swarm vessel had been damaged. "Target confirmed destroyed," she reported, hardly believing her own words. "The reality anchors work. They can be hurt." Admiral Yu's voice came through the neural link to every human in the fleet. "You see? They bleed. They can die. Now let's show them how humans fight." The alien fleet watched in amazement as the human ships engaged the swarm on equal terms. Human weapons that should have been primitive compared to alien technology somehow worked where advanced alien weapons had failed. "How?" whispered Admiral Kextar. "How are they doing this?" On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Yu smiled. "Because we did not try to match your technology. We built something completely different. We built weapons to fight nightmares. We built ships to sail through impossible seas. We built a fleet to fight wars that should not exist." The battle was just beginning, but already the galaxy was learning something new about humanity. Humans did not just adapt to the universe, they made the universe adapt to them, and the Void Swarm was about to learn what that meant. The battle began badly. Despite the reality anchors making some swarm ships solid, the main swarm fleet was still mostly untouchable. Their massive bioships moved through space like living nightmares, ignoring physics and common sense. When alien weapons hit them, the shots simply passed through as if firing at ghosts. Captain Jae-hun watched his tactical display with growing concern. The Prometheus could only affect a small area of space with its reality anchors. The swarm fleet was simply too big. As soon as swarm ships moved away from his influence, they became untouchable again. "Sir, swarm forces are adapting," reported his science officer. "They are avoiding the areas where our anchors work. They are learning." This was the nightmare scenario. An enemy that could learn and adapt faster than conventional forces could respond. But humans had planned for this too. Admiral Jinho Yu activated the next phase of the battle plan. "All ghost ships, begin synchronization protocol. Match quantum frequencies with swarm vessels. Commander Lee, you are authorized to proceed." Commander Sujin Lee felt the order through the neural link. Around her, the crews of the Ghost Fleet prepared for something that had never been attempted before. They were going to join the swarm in their multi-dimensional existence. "All ships, phase shift in 3, 2, 1. The ghost ships flickered and vanished from normal space. But they did not disappear completely. Using quantum technology that even human scientists barely understood, the ships entered the same dimensional space as the swarm. Suddenly, the swarm found themselves facing enemies who could match their abilities. human ghost ships materialized, next to swarm vessels existing in the same impossible state between dimensions. For the first time, the swarm faced opponents who could fight them on their own terms, but this was only the beginning of humanity's plan. Lieutenant Yejin Ko was flying a standard fighter when the first swarm boarding pods launched toward the human fleet. The pods were living things, like giant seeds with teeth. They attached themselves to ship hulls and began eating through the armor. "All fighters, intercept those pods," came the order from Fleet Command. Yejin dove toward the nearest pod, but her weapons seemed useless against its bio-armor. Then she remembered her emergency equipment. Every human pilot carried a device. That was supposed to be for emergencies only, a quantum disruptor that could break the bonds between atoms. She armed the device and flew straight at the boarding pod. Instead of firing from a distance, she crashed her fighter directly into the pod while activating the disruptor. The explosion tore through both her ship and the swarm pod, destroying both. "Fighter down, but boarding pod destroyed," she reported through her escape pod's communicator. "Quantum disruptors work against their bio-armor." The information spread through the neural link instantly. Every human pilot now knew how to hurt the swarm's living weapons. Meanwhile, Sergeant Tae-min Baek was leading the defense against boarding pods that had successfully attached to human ships. His Marines were armed with weapons that seemed impossible. Guns that fired crystallized time, blades that could cut through the fabric of space, armor that could phase through matter. The first swarm creature that broke through the hull was like nothing in the galaxy's databases. It was part machine, part living tissue, and part something else entirely. It moved through solid walls like they were not there and seemed to exist in multiple places at once. "Standard weapons have no effect," Taemin reported to his squad. "Switch to probability guns." The probability guns were perhaps humanity's strangest weapons. Instead of firing energy or matter, they fired chance itself. When Tae-min pulled the trigger, the gun calculated the probability that the swarm creature would simply cease to exist. Then it made that probability real. The creature flickered and vanished. Not destroyed, not killed, but simply made never to have existed in the first place. "Target eliminated," Tae-min reported. "Probability weapons are effective against multidimensional entities, but the real breakthrough came when one of his Marines, Private Yoon-ji Park, had her weapon damaged in combat. Instead of using the probability gun correctly, it malfunctioned and fired pure chaos energy at a swarm creature. Something unexpected happened. The creature began to change. Its perfect biomechanical structure started to develop flaws. Random mutations appeared. Parts of it became organic when they should have been mechanical. Other parts became mechanical when they should have been organic. The chaos energy disrupts their perfection, Yoonji realized. They cannot adapt to pure randomness. This information also spread through the neural link. Human weapons designers began modifying their guns to fire controlled chaos instead of ordered energy. Admiral So-young Hwang was treating casualties aboard the medical frigate Hippocrates when she made a discovery that would change the entire battle. A wounded Marine had been partially phased into the same dimensional space as the swarm. Instead of killing him, the exposure had given him a strange ability. "I can hear them," the Marine whispered. "I can hear the swarm talking to each other. They communicate through music." So-young immediately understood the implications. What kind of music? Perfect harmony. Every note calculated for maximum efficiency. No emotion, no chaos, just mathematical perfection. So-young contacted the fleet immediately. "This is Admiral Hwang. I need someone to play music through the communication system. Not perfect music, human music, something with chaos and emotion." The order seemed insane, but human commanders had learned to trust unusual ideas. Lieutenant Yejin Ko, now rescued and back in a new fighter, began broadcasting a piece of music from her personal collection. It was called Indomitable Spirit, composed during Earth's darkest days when humans thought they might lose their home planet to environmental collapse. The music was not perfect. It had rough edges, emotional peaks and valleys, moments of chaos, followed by moments of beauty. It was, in short, completely human. The effect on the swarm was immediate and devastating. Across the battlefield, swarm ships began to shudder and slow. Their perfect coordination faltered. Ships that had been moving in mathematical precision suddenly became confused and erratic. "What is happening to them?" asked Admiral Kextar from the alien fleet. Dr. Minseo Shin, monitoring the battle from Darwin's Edge, had the answer. "The music is disrupting their hive mind. They are used to perfect harmony. The chaos in human music is like noise to them. It is breaking their ability to think as one." Admiral Yu immediately gave new orders. "All ships, broadcast human music on all frequencies. Everything we have. Classical, jazz, rock, folk songs, lullabies. Fill space with human noise." The result was extraordinary. As human music spread across quantum frequencies, the swarm fleet began to fall apart. Ships collided with each other. Formations broke down. Some swarm vessels even began attacking their own forces, but the swarm was learning and adapting. Some ships began to shield themselves from the music. Others started generating counter-harmonies to cancel out the human broadcasts. "They are adapting. Too quickly," reported Commander Dayun Jion. "We need to escalate." Admiral Yu nodded. Phase 2 of Operation Eternal Dawn. All ships, prepare for full chaos protocol. What happened next had never been attempted before. The entire human fleet began to coordinate, not through their neural link, but through the music itself. Every ship added its voice to a massive, chaotic symphony that spread across space. It was not beautiful music. It was loud, discordant, emotional, and completely unpredictable. It was the sound of humanity itself, messy, chaotic, imperfect, but unbreakably strong. The swarm's hive mind, which had conquered 3 civilizations, finally met something it could not understand or adapt to. Human chaos was not random. It had patterns, but patterns that changed faster than any mind could follow. It had emotions that the swarm could not calculate. For the first time in the war, swarm ships began to retreat. "They are falling back," reported Captain Yunji Kang from Humanity's Will. "All swarm forces are withdrawing from the battlefield." But Admiral Yu knew this was not victory. It was just the beginning. The swarm would learn from this defeat. They would adapt and return stronger. "Send a message to Admiral Ryu," he ordered. "Tell him it is time for the final phase. Wake the ultimate legends." In the depths of space, where quantum foam met the void between dimensions, something stirred. The most secret of humanity's preparations was about to be revealed. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. The message reached the hidden places between dimensions where Admiral Donghyun Ryu had been waiting for 30 years. His ship, the Event Horizon, existed in a state that most scientists said was impossible. It was anchored in normal space, but could move through the quantum foam where the swarm traveled. For 3 decades, Ryu had been alone in the dark spaces between realities, studying the enemy that he knew would one day come. He had watched the swarm destroy civilizations. He had learned their secrets, and he had discovered their greatest weakness. "Admiral Yu sends his regards," came the transmission from the main fleet. "Operation Eternal Dawn, final phase is authorized." Ryu smiled for the first time in years. Finally, all hands, prepare for dimensional emergence. It is time to come home. The event horizon began to phase back into normal space. As it emerged from the quantum void, alien sensors across the galaxy detected something impossible. The ship was huge, larger than anything humans had ever built. But more than that, it carried technology that the swarm themselves had developed. "How is this possible?" demanded Admiral Kextar from the alien fleet. "That ship is using swarm technology," Admiral Jinho Yu answered calmly. Admiral Ryu has been studying our enemy from inside their own domain. He knows them better than they know themselves. On the event horizon, Admiral Ryu was briefing his crew. They were all volunteers who had spent decades in the quantum void, isolated from everything they had ever known. They had watched the galaxy. From the outside, protected by technology that let them exist in the same spaces as the swarm without being detected. The swarm thinks it is a single mind controlling many bodies, Ryu explained. But we have learned the truth. It is actually millions of small minds pretending to be one. Their greatest strength is their greatest weakness. He activated a holographic display showing the swarm's command structure. There is a core consciousness that coordinates all the others. It exists in a ship at the center of their fleet. If we can reach it and disrupt its control, the entire swarm will fall apart. Dr. Kyung-ho Seo, the chief scientist aboard Darwin's Edge, was receiving data from the event horizon when he made a discovery that changed everything. The readings showed that the swarm's dimensional technology was not their own invention. It was based on something else, something older. Admiral Yu, you need to see this, he transmitted to the flagship. The swarm's technology matches theoretical designs from Earth's early quantum experiments. Someone built them using human scientific principles. The implications were staggering. The swarm was not a natural evolution. They were created, possibly by a human civilization from another timeline or dimension. It does not matter who made them, Admiral Yu replied. What matters is stopping them. Captain Hyasun Yang stood on the bridge of her ship, Last Stand, as she received the most important mission of her life. Her vessel carried humanity's ultimate weapon, a device that had taken 50 years to build and could only be used once. Captain Yang, came Admiral Yu's voice through the neural link. You understand what this mission requires? Yes, sir, she replied. The quantum reality generator will force the swarm to exist in only one dimension, but the ship that deploys it becomes permanently anchored to the same dimensional space. There will be no rescue, no return. I understand. Sir, my crew understands. We volunteered for this. Hyasun looked around her bridge. Every officer had known for years that this day might come. They had trained for a mission that would save the galaxy but cost their lives. Sir, said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Minho Cha, if I may say so, it has been an honor serving with you. The honor is mine, Hee-sun replied. All of ours. The final battle began when the swarm launched their ultimate attack. Their core consciousness, protected by thousands of bioships, began to emerge from the quantum void. It was a creature, the size of a moon covered in technology that bent reality around it. That thing is rewriting the laws of physics, reported Dr. Seo from Darwin's Edge. Space and time are becoming unstable around it. Admiral Ryu's event horizon moved to intercept. His ship had weapons that could hurt the core consciousness, but he needed to get close. The quantum foam around the swarm core was deadly to normal. Ships, all vessels, provide cover for the event horizon, ordered Admiral Yu. Get Admiral Ryu to his target. The human fleet moved like a living thing, each ship knowing its role without being told. The ghost ships phased in and out of reality, confusing swarm defenders. The Titan dreadnoughts hammered away with weapons that fired compressed space-time. The reality anchors forced swarm ships into normal dimensions where they could be destroyed. But the core consciousness was adapting. It began to generate new types of bioships, creatures that could exist in multiple dimensions while also being immune to human music and chaos energy. It is learning too fast, reported Commander Soo-Jin Lee from the Ghost Fleet. Every attack we make, it develops a countermeasure. That was when General Mi Young Kim launched the ground assault that no one had expected. Her Marines, equipped with personal dimensional phase technology, began boarding the core consciousness itself. You cannot board that thing, protested Admiral Kekstar. It is the size of a moon and exists in multiple dimensions. Watch us, Mi Young replied. Her Marines, phased directly through the core consciousness's bio-armor, appearing inside its central nervous system. They carried weapons that could disrupt quantum fields and bombs that could create localized reality storms. The effect was immediate. The core consciousness began to convulse as human Marines literally fought a battle inside its brain. But it was too vast, too complex. The Marines could hurt it, but they could not destroy it. Last stand. You are cleared for final approach, Admiral Yu transmitted. Captain Yang's ship began its approach to the swarm core. Around her, the greatest battle in galactic history raged. Human ships fought impossible enemies while alien fleets watched in amazement. "All ships, this is Captain Yang," she broadcast on all frequencies. "To my fellow humans, it has been an honor to serve with legends. To our alien allies, remember this day. Remember that when darkness came to the galaxy, humanity stood up to fight it." She paused, looking at her crew one last time. "And to the universe itself, we have one thing to say. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not give up. And humanity never, ever stops fighting for what is right." The last stand reached the core consciousness and activated the quantum reality generator. The device was humanity's greatest achievement, a machine that could force the fundamental laws of reality to change. As it activated, space-time itself began to solidify around the swarm core. The effect spread outward like a wave. Swarm ships that had existed in multiple dimensions were suddenly forced into normal space. Their biotechnology, which depended on quantum uncertainty, began to fail. Ships that had been invulnerable became ordinary matter that could be destroyed, but the cost was terrible. The last stand, anchored to the same dimensional space as the swarm core, could not escape. As the reality wave spread, Captain Yang and her crew were trapped in a pocket of crystallized space-time. "Captain Yang, respond!" Admiral Yu called desperately. Yang's final transmission was calm and clear. "Mission accomplished, Admiral. The swarm is locked in normal space. You can hurt them now. Make it count." With the core consciousness trapped in normal reality, Admiral Ryu's event horizon was finally able to close for the killing blow. His ship fired a weapon that existed more in theory than practice, a quantum singularity bomb that could erase its target from all possible timelines. The core consciousness died not with an explosion, but with a whisper. It simply ceased to exist, and with it, the coordination that held the swarm together vanished. Across the battlefield, swarm ships began to shut down. Without their central intelligence, they were just biomechanical shells. The invasion that had destroyed 3 civilizations ended not with a bang, but with silence. Admiral Yu looked out at the aftermath of the battle. Human ships floated among the wreckage of nightmares. The galaxy was safe, but the cost had been enormous. The last stand and her crew were gone, trapped forever in crystallized space-time as a monument to their sacrifice. "Sir," reported Captain Yunji Kang, "we are receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Every world that was consumed by the swarm is reappearing. Their erasure from reality is being undone." Admiral Yu nodded. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them the legends have completed their mission. The galaxy is free." In the weeks that followed, the true scope of humanity's preparations became clear to the galaxy. The hidden fleets, the impossible technologies, the soldiers trained for wars that should not exist. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for a threat that most species did not even know was coming. The Galactic Council offered humanity a permanent seat at the high table. They offered them control over entire sectors. They offered them anything they wanted. Ambassador Taeho Kim's response was simple. "We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to protect it. When the next threat comes, and there is always a next threat, remember what you learned here. Legends are not born, they are made, and anyone can become a legend if they are willing to sacrifice everything for something greater than themselves."